Welcome to the Liberated Equestrian Podcast and community. This is a place for horsewomen to experience belonging, breakthrough, and becoming. I'm your host, Lisa Pulliam, founder of StableMinded.us, mental health professional, second season equestrian, and author of Finding Calm, helping riders navigate through fear and anxiety. The Liberated Equestrian is devoted to the mission of being set free and experiencing breakthroughs in every aspect of our horsemanship and humanship. This is all about mind, body, heart, and soul care for ourselves, our horses, and the people we do life with, so that we can grow together as a community of emotionally and relationally healthy horsewomen. So find a comfortable spot, take a deep breath, and let's embark on this journey of becoming liberated equestrians together. Hey, I'm so glad that you are back for this edition of the Liberated Equestrian Podcast, as I come to you, just me today, wanting to share with you some things that are on my heart in terms of horsemanship and humanship. I've just come off of a really wonderful weekend. When I'm recording this, it's the beginning of March 2025, and I had the opportunity to spend a number of days at the Horse World Expo in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So this was not my first time going to the Horse World Expo. If you've never been before, it is the horse lover's dream when it comes to a conference. There are 4 different tracks that you can learn through over a number of days with clinicians from all over the country and local. You can watch the clinicians demonstrate in the ginormous arena, in the smaller arena. You get to see different disciplines and different styles of horsemanship. And then there are 2 other locations that you can actually sit down and learn in. So one is sitting at the round pen and watching a clinician work in that space. And then there's 2 seminar areas. So you can go and listen to lectures. And then, of course, there's a ridiculous amount of horse shopping, browsing everything from what kind of fences to use in your pastures to tack to stuff for the rider. It's just an awesome event. And so it was really interesting this time. This was probably my 4th or 5th time attending in about a 7 to 8 year period. And I really found myself kind of taking a step back and realizing how much of my life that I'm currently living is something that I had been living for. And the timing of recognizing that, uh, both in my personal dreams and aspirations, along with just a deepening understanding of mental health as a practicing clinician, my own personal journey, and then also what I'm doing when I'm working with clients. It was one of those kind of take your breath away, step back and look at life and say, wow, how did we get to this place? So I want to share that story with you because I think that we all have a tendency to fall into what Warwick Schiller calls destination addiction. And so, for those of you who are not familiar with Warwick Schiller, he is a horse trainer, kind of turned mental health junkie. And you can find him on his Journey On podcast. He's written a book on his tips for horse training. And I've been following Warwick for years and have read his book. And he was actually one of the clinicians teaching and speaking this weekend, along with one of my favorites, Tick Maynard. And between the 2 of them, it was really crystallizing to see how much I've learned already and gained and put into practice, and how much a simple principle needs to be relearned over and over again. So when Warwick was teaching about destination addiction, there was a particular horse and rider in the great big arena, and the horse was struggling with some anxiety, and Warwick was helping this rider navigate their way through the situation with this horse. And what he was able to demonstrate was how the horse's mind was in a different location from his feet. And so his destination point was outside the arena. And so the horse would do everything he could to basically get back to that location. And Warwick's training style in this was just to ask the horse to continue to move on And once he moved on from that gate, he can go anywhere he wanted to go. So the horse eventually discovered that he could also find some rest and reassurance with standing with Warwick. So then the horse ended up with two destination points, Warwick and the gate, and continuing to help this horse find relaxation by movement, and also really kind of setting the stage to invite the horse to find presence and groundedness where his feet were in the moment and where his mind was in the moment. So I've seen this demonstration before. I've read about this before. I've, underlined and highlighted this passage significantly in the book when I read it from Warwick. But seeing it all come together with what's going on in my personal life was this big aha moment, because we as humans have destination addiction all the time. And there is a benefit to having a vision, to having an idea of this is where we're heading to, and then doing all the things, the building blocks to move us into that actual destination or vision. I'm a huge advocate for having a vision. And the scriptures say, without a vision, people perish. So there is a difference, though, between having a vision and not living where your feet are. And for me as a trauma survivor, and for many of you, whether or not you even recognize yourself as a trauma survivor, that destination addiction is part of your survival response. So when I was growing up in a home that was, physically and emotionally abusive, there was a neglect that was part of it, emotional neglect that was part of my story. And I even have a hard time saying that, because at the end of the day, my mom and dad like loved me and did the best they could with what they knew at the time. But in their brokenness, there was breaking, and I experienced that. And so one of my ways of survival as a child that is so common is having a destination point in mind to endure the present moment. So to get through the chaos and the dysfunction, my goal was I just need to graduate and get to college. So I started looking at colleges in 10th grade. I mean, I was destination addicted. I'm going to get to college, and then, well, so I get to college. Well, college wasn't what it cracked up to be. So then it was, I'm going to graduate from college and I'm going to have this awesome job. I'm going to work in New York City. I'm going to be a corporate exec of some kind. Then I'm going to get married and have children and this big, glorious house with a white picket fence. And I had my destination addiction, right? So now I'm in college, not being present in college because I'm thinking about the next milestone. Well, then I started dating my husband, graduated from college, and things started to take a new direction. And my husband said to me, if you take that job in New York City, there's no way our relationship is going to work. And I, by the grace of God, got a job that was local to where both of us were living in my hometown. And that set my life in a new trajectory. So that was not a fulfilling job. It is not what I wanted to do for a living. But hey, I got the relationship and the marriage that I wanted, and we got married. And so what was my next destination addiction? Well, now we need to have children. So we had children 3 years into our marriage. Uh, there I was having a baby. Well, now what's the new destination addiction? Well, now I have to put my career on hold and all those aspirations. So my new destination addiction was, well, when the kids grow up, then I will. And so I moved through the really difficult years of parenting. I had a hard time as a young mom. I had a hard time throughout my parenting journey of being able to like make it through. And so when we moved to Pennsylvania in 2015, I realized we were planted in the middle of horse country. And some of you have heard this story in various places that I've shared it. And moving into the middle of horse country, my new vision for my life was finally I could live on that farm property, that I could ride my horse to the mailbox, which I shared that story with you previously, and And then I can have my farm, I can have my bucket list dream. It's not the corporate exec life, it's the exact opposite. But hey, this is what we can do. And we just need to like raise the kids and launch them into their own life. And then I can have what I call my farm at Sela. So I've been living for that dream. And to get to that place, I have been doing lots of things over the last 6 to 7 years. I've been learning about every aspect of horse management. I've been developing my skills as an equine assisted therapist and coach. I have been running my own business, all these things as these like building blocks. And point being, attending this expo, I had this really clear revelation of finally, I'm in the place where I thought I would be purchasing a farm property. And that this time at the expo, I would be getting price quotes for footings in arenas and getting price quotes for run-in sheds and sitting in on the seminars on pasture management. And so I actually went to one of the seminars on pasture management and another on equine nutrition. And I was really kind of surprised about how much I already know. I was like, wow, I have really been listening and doing my research over the last, few expos and everything in between to gain the information I need in order to move in this direction. And the interesting timing about all of this is that we had just looked at a property that seemed like financially it would be the closest we would ever get to what we could afford. And in the 3 weeks leading up to the expo, going through that process of imagining what life would be like if we moved in this direction. And my husband being at the point of saying, I'm willing to entertain this thought. It's not his ideal. And then what we discovered is we had two very different destinations in mind in our vision for what life would look like at this phase. And my vision and his vision don't align. And that is a major problem, right? In relationship, that's a major problem. It's similar when you have a horse that you have an idea of what you're going to do with that horse. And the more you build that relationship with that horse, the more you realize this isn't the same destination that this horse wants that I want. I, acquired this horse to be a competitor. And instead, this horse wants to be a pasture pet. Or I acquired this horse to enjoy just some arena riding, and their attention is outside of the arena. They want to go hack out, and they're frustrated inside the arena. So it is true relationships. We are in relationships with people, just like we're in relationships with horses. And our idea of what the relationship should look like and the partnership should look like and the process should look like to get to that destination we have in mind is different. And so, what do we do in that situation when we come to that point of conflict? So, for me, both the principles of stewardship and sacrifice become a huge player in that decision making, right? So, I look at the commitment I made to my husband and the honoring of our vows and the biblical principles of sacrifice, and yet, I'm also in the season of life of recognizing my people pleasing tendencies, how I minimize my felt needs and my desires for the sake of somebody else, where I don't use my voice in order to avoid conflict. And now we're in this process of saying, okay, where's the compromise? What is our top core value? What is our second core value? How are we moving forward? And so the beautiful thing of this with my husband in particular is that we got to the point of agreeing that we would spend X amount of dollars for X amount of years to try to give this a go. And that was his gift to me, right? But I started rewinding and looking back at this vision I have for the farm at Sela and asking the question, was this forged out of trauma? Is this a pattern of thinking and living that will lead to regret if I don't pay attention to the internal motivation. And the reality is, it is. And I was able to get to that point because I've had some really wonderful, beautiful relationship connection time at my current barn that I love to pieces. The people I love. My horse is super happy. And so this also plays into the fact because my dream was having my horse in my backyard and being able to walk out my door and have my grandchildren come groom and play with the horse with me. And it was just going to be this idyllic kind of retirement life. It didn't take into consideration the fact that it would be a remote location that would be hard to get to, that it would be without the community that I live and thrive on, that I have health issues that I didn't take into consideration when the dream was forged, that sometimes makes movement very uncomfortable and very painful. It inhibits the amount that I can lift and push and pull without injury. And if I'm the woman taking care of my own farm, it's going to be a physical labor experience. And I am not made with the body that can do that kind of work, especially at the age I am. So I have to come to terms with the reality, not only of our limited financial resources, but my limited physical capacity. And at the same time, I also have to come to terms with the fact that my marriage partner does not share in this dream, but he would sacrifice for me, and that my horse that I thought would be a happy camper in this situation would not be a happy camper in this situation. We've experienced that being at a small 6 acre property with 3 other horses that he couldn't play with and that he couldn't get the exercise and the turnout that he wanted to have and needed. And he was miserable. And so I don't want to put him in that situation. Why would I move my very happy horse from where he currently is when I'm also a very happy human where I currently am? And with all of this that was coming up, as I sat in that Horse World Expo arena watching Warwick Schiller work with this particular horse and seeing the consequences of destination addiction, flipping from one idea to the other idea, the other idea to the other idea, and not being present in the moment, I realized that that has been me unknowingly, but not the effort, the vision has not been wasted. And this is the joy that came out of seeing this particular horse in action, is that all the effort working towards the farm at Sela has not been wasted because I have developed as a horsewoman to be who I wanted to be. I've developed as a human to be who I want to be because of the building block pieces that I have pursued in this journey for what I thought the outcome would be. And now I find myself saying, it's time to release that farm at Sela dream and realize that Sela is within. And Sela means rest or pause in the scriptures. When it's used in the scriptures, it's in the poetry and the music. And it is like to take a point to praise, to take a point and say, I see this. And when I think of that picture of the mind and the feet being present in the same location and kind of savoring that moment, when I have this picture of that particular horse just taking a breath and being in that moment and finding relaxation with its rider in its time and space, that is Sila. And that is who I am and want to be wherever I go. And I every morning, as we were thinking about this particular property, I would wake up with like anxiety and stress over like, no, this isn't it. But there had to be some kind of grief that I had to move through and will continue to move through because I've held this as a picture in my mind for so long that to let it go is a process of grieving what I thought would be. And yet in the grieving, there's acceptance and the joy of uncovering what is right before me. For the entire time that we have been parents, we have used the expression, people are more important than things. Sila is a thing. It was a picture of a place of rest that I wanted to invite people into. And yet you can't lead people to a place or experience that you have not yet experienced for yourself. And when I picked Sila as my word of the year, I asked God to make it real in me. And what I'm discovering is that the real in me is Sila. Like I be at peace and present in the place that I'm in? Can Sila be real in me and not be the fruit of a trauma survivor, but rather evidence of the healing of a trauma survivor? Can I simply be at rest and look around at the gifts that are before me? And so I'm bringing you this story because that is what I want for you. I want you to have that picture in your life of what is good in this present moment, even in suffering, even in challenge, even in trial. What are you learning? How are you growing? What are you receiving? What are you giving that is building for the future, but not with this destination addiction in mind that you end up missing the gifts in the present moment? So I'm going to wrap up the story with this one very ironic scenario related to all this. So the Wednesday night before I went to this expo, I came home and said to my husband, I'm like, listen, you just need to remind me how much I love being at a place where there's a lesson program, how much I love being in community, how much I love the people that I get to do life with at this barn, how happy Cody is. And so when I talk about moving to a farm property and bringing Cody home, you just need to remind me of this moment. He's like, can I quote you on this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So the Friday at the conference, I get a text message from the realtor that we've been working with, wanting to know if we would want to put in a lower offer than the listing price at this property we had looked at, because the selling realtor had come back and said, are they interested? And he said, no, there's too much work. It's too much money. And she came back with, well, what would they be willing to offer? So here I am sitting there thinking about destination addiction, seeing this text message, thinking, wow, we can get this property for a price that's really great. And I've waited a long time to be in this situation that we can entertain this. And I'm the one that's saying no, not somebody else, not my husband, not the financial people, not even God telling me, no, you can't have this. But this is me saying, where I am and what I have is good. And it may not be the picture of what I thought I wanted, but that picture was forged in pain. That picture was forged in survival. And God used it to give me so many opportunities and gifts and learning and all the things that I value and the relationships that I've had. And am I willing to accept that as the gift and not the picture I had in mind? And so I encourage you to just kind of take a pause and reflect on your destination addiction, whether that shows up in your work, in your family, in your horsemanship, with your horse. Where is destination addiction showing up that you are missing the moment? You're missing the savoring. You're missing the deeper inner work that you could experience that would transform the external into the picture that you are living and supposed to be living, as opposed to holding on to that picture of something that isn't the best for you. And so I don't know where you're at today. I don't know how this is touching you or triggering you, but I'm here for you. As always, I am available for coaching as well as counseling. I would be truly honored to come alongside you and help you gain some clarity about what is your vision for life? What are your core values and how are they shaping the decisions you make? How are you living incongruent to your values? And what does it look like to move into congruency with that? And just help you unpack that and figure out a way forward. As a coach, as a therapist, my goal is not to work with you forever. It's to strategically help you target a particular issue, resolve that, and go live the life that you were made for. As a liberated equestrian and as a liberated human, no longer living from a place of strongholds and fears and pain, but rather stepping into the freedom of the life that you were made for. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Liberated Equestrian Podcast. It's always an honor to walk with you on this journey of horsemanship and humanship. Thank you for tuning in to the Liberated Equestrian Podcast. I'm so grateful to have you as a part of this community. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow equestrians. For more information and ongoing support, visit theliberatedequestrian.us, where you'll find show notes and resources to help you become a liberated equestrian. The Liberated Equestrian Podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The content shared in each episode, including discussions, interviews, and advice, reflects the personal opinions and professional insights of the host and guest. The information provided on this podcast is not a substitute for professional mental health care, counseling, or therapy. Listeners should consult a licensed healthcare professional for specific advice regarding their personal situations. Reliance on any information provided by this podcast is solely at the listener's discretion and risk. While every effort is made to provide accurate and up-to-date information, neither Lisa Pulliam nor the Liberated Equestrian Podcast assumes any responsibilities for errors, omissions, or outcomes resulting from the use of this information. By listening to this podcast, you agree that neither the host, guest, or affiliated party shall be held liable for any damages, loss, or harm arising from the use or misuse of the information presented. If you are experiencing a mental health emergency, please seek immediate assistance from a qualified healthcare provider or call your emergency services in your area. Thank you for listening to the Liberated Equestrian Podcast.